I guess the day that Jim Donnelly talked me into taking over the insurance agency, that I still remember that day well. He really wasn't doing a whole lot of business. And he says, I think we can make something of this, and I'd like for you to run it. But Jim had all the faith, and Andy, in the world. I had never been in insurance. And they said, you're the man, let's go for it. And the rest is history.
Yeah, that's an incredible amount of confidence to instill in you. And I think that's why people like us benefit, Ralph. The Glockners are really good at giving you a chance to be you, right?
They are. They say, hey, we're going to provide the rooftop, all the back support. We're going to provide the capital. We need your brain power. We need you to work and make this happen. And they just kind of get out of the way. So you're running your own business inside of their business. This is the way I've always looked at it.
That open-mindedness is what leads to this progression.
New Local Legends Podcast. Real small town success stories.
You have quite the lineups.
We believe that if people know better, they can do better.
When you kissed me by the river.
Sponsored by Glockner Enterprises.
As pies are made at Glockner Chevrolet.
Time to turn.
Rich Moon.
Welcome to the Speakeasy.
The amount of love and compassion.
The hope that's been bubbling up in the last few years.
The finer things about Portsmouth.
You just don't see that everywhere.
Local legends only.
All right, cheers. Hello, I'm Ralph Cartee. I'm current manager of Glockner Insurance in Portsmouth, Ohio, for those that didn't know me.
Well, welcome to the Local Legends Podcast, Ralph.
Pleasure to be here.
Thanks for joining us, man. You're an important part of the Glockner story and have been around for many years. Know where all the bodies are buried. We need your expertise, right?
I do.
Why don't you just start by just telling us a little bit about your background, where you came from, how you got involved here.
Well, I grew up in a little place up behind Wheelersburg, South Webster, Ohio. I attended the joint vocational school in 79 and 80. And my senior year at the vocational school, Andy hired me on an early placement as a auto mechanic for the Volkswagen, Toyota, Honda, Audi, Porsche, and all that stuff when we had all that, those lines. So that's how I got started back in 1980 as a mechanic.
I was telling Olivia about that because I found that particularly a fascinating part of your entrance, is that you were a mechanic.
Yes. Bill Davis and Andy Glockner, they put me on the line, and back in those days it was only 5 mechanics. It was a very small shop, very tight-knit group, and that's where I cut my teeth in the business.
Well, yeah, I guess what did you learn from that side of things, Ralph? And how long were you a mechanic?
I was a mechanic for 5 years, then a service manager for 10 or 12 years at that store, at the Toyota Honda store. It was just a great learning experience. We didn't have the inventory back in those days. I can remember if we had more than 3 or 4 Toyotas on the lot, we had a bunch. And
that's kind of like now,
Yeah, it is. It kind of reminds me of now. Interest rates, when I came on, interest rates were, way up there. I can't remember the exact number, but they were north of 10%, maybe.
Wow.
So it's kind of the same climate we're in right now today. But I learned the business from the bottom up, from the shop, and then in the service lane, then as a manager of the service department.
Well, I guess kind of what aspirations did you have, Ralph? Did you know where you wanted to progress in the business or what the future looked like?
When I was a mechanic, I was happy. I mean, turning wrenches, still today I like to turn wrenches. But the opportunity came up. Andy was moving from the Toyota store to the Chevy store at that time. Abby, his father, was stepping down, so he was taking over that operation. So there was an opportunity to move up. The guy Bill Davis, was moving from service manager to general manager. And they came to me and said, "Hey, how would you like to run the shop?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely, I'd love to." So that's kind of how it started, the progression of moving up through the company.
Mm-hmm. And I guess as far as your progression from there, Ralph, I know, like, when did Ebb introduce the new services at the plaza, finance, insurance, compliance, truck and trailer, like how that all come to be? Because that seems like, I mean, it's incredible. I was talking to someone about this the other day, that Ebb started that like 50 years at this point, almost.
At least, yes.
Yeah, and it's continued to be such a thriving business and new people involved, and it's just incredible that still is what it is today, you know?
Right. And that's the department I'm in now. And it is amazing that Ebb probably just started this out of his desk drawer and said, "I'm going to do a leasing company, and I'm going to sell heavy trucks." I don't know exactly the dates on that, but I think it was in the 50s or early 60s. I'm really not sure. You have to check me on that. But it is amazing to what it's blossomed into today. A lot of branches from that, Auto Now, where they're using that same department to finance all these cars. So, yes, I was just seeing a lot of changes in this company, from the little Honda, Toyota store,
right,
Chevy store, to what it is today with all these other dealerships.
Well, I'm excited too for people to hear your progression and what you do, Ralph, because when I talk to people on the street or just people that aren't involved in the business, we're known as the family of dealerships. That's kind of the most customer facing entity, but there's just like a lot of smart people doing a lot of other things behind the scenes,
We very quietly do a lot of business.
We really do.
We write home and auto, life insurance, annuities. We do a lot of commercial business. A lot of people don't realize what we do out there. And I tell people all the time that you guys have an insurance agency? Absolutely. We've been in the insurance business since the late 70s. Actually, Ebb started the insurance agency, I think, in 77. But I didn't come on board till like 2001 in the insurance. But we've just very quietly do a lot of business. It's a lot of fun.
Well, you, like I was saying, right, I mean, most people are familiar with some kind of insurance provider, but maybe talk about specifically what you do and why you think you've been successful at it all these years.
Our main niche business is the heavy trucking industry. That's where we spend our time marketing. And what we focus on is that long haul, short haul hauler. And we'll try to take care of that trucker with insurance products. We do have a compliance department within our Glockner organization that helps that trucker with his filings. I know this probably sounds Greek to you, but there's a lot of compliance that trucker has to have to keep him legal out there on the street. And what we found early on was truck drivers are very good at what they do, driving trucks. But all this paperwork behind them, they needed a lot of help. And we wanted to be more than just an insurance provider. We wanted to keep them legal. So in that realm, we also offer them financing. We make it pretty doggone easy. They can come onto our lot. They can buy a truck. They can buy a trailer. They can, be financed. They can get insurance and have compliance all in one building. And we have that happening every single day. It's just a very well mapped out program that Mr. Glockner thought of 50 years ago.
Right. Yeah, and that one-stop shop, I think, really is what makes your departments and the synergy between you unique. Is like you're saying, it is a lot of hoops to jump through, especially someone that's on the road for 40, 60, 80 hours. I don't know what, but it's
those guys pound in a lot of hours. They really don't have a lot of time. And when they are home, the last thing they want to do is focus on all this compliance and paperwork behind the scenes. They have to mow their grass and take care of things around the home. So it works out really well for us.
Well, maybe talk about one of the experiences, if you have any top of mind with your customers, like any success stories you've seen or been proud to be a part of at Glockner Insurance and Compliance?
Man, there's so many. I thought about that a lot. I've had so many wonderful customers that just, keep coming back, and they don't shop me on insurance. They trust me. They know that they let me do all the work as far as shopping it. Some of the best customer experiences I've had is that person that stays with you for 20 or 30 years and stays with you through thick and thin, no matter what. And we have those kind of folks. Maybe one of the most unique things that ever happened to me was in the service department. I was a service writer at the time, writing service. And I was waiting on this old guy, and he was just a polite old fella. I won't say his name, but anyway, he came in one day, and he had a boat behind his vehicle, and he handed me the keys to it. He said, "You've done so well. I'm giving you that boat." So
you didn't see that one coming, Ralph, is that what you're saying?
Didn't see that one coming. I get emotional thinking about it.
That's incredible, man. Well, yeah, there's there is some incredible one-to-one interactions, especially where we live in this small, rural, tight-knit community. It's a whole different level of quality, and things are so much more personal than more high-track transaction areas. They have to be,
But what I've always found, if you treat people like you want to be treated, it's all downhill from there.
Sure, no doubt. Maybe talk about how you've seen your department change over the years, Ralph. How have you developed things? What do you think? Maybe some experiences that our entrepreneurs and business owners listening can learn from. Where have you seen the biggest changes made?
Well, in the insurance agency, the biggest changes is market. If you don't have the market space in an agency, it's hard to grow. And from where we started 20-some years ago to now, we have some of the best carriers that we are representing in the industry. When we first started, we had none. We started from nothing. So to earn those carriers' trust and to keep building onto that has been very gratifying. So that's probably the biggest change I've seen in the insurance agency, just being able to attract really good carriers that want to support our community and have really good insurance products.
Right.
So that's probably the biggest thing there. In the car industry, what I've seen change, obviously, it was really small when I first started with this company. And what it's grown to today with all the other add-ons, the dealerships, it just, my head spins at the number of cars we are selling today than what we were 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So huge change there. And the reason we're getting those opportunities is because of what we did 20, 30, 40 years ago by treating our customers fair, by holding good customer relations and selling cars. And, if you do things right, good things happen to you.
Of course, yeah. And that's well articulated, Ralph. So what I feel like I've been, in the conversations I've been having with just different people, the kick that I've kind of been on is we spent so much time as local businesses and even maybe at Glockner at times, trying to compare ourselves to these bigger competitors. For the when Carvana came about, they made big disruption, big waves. Even Amazon, Tesla, but what they do is not what we do, and they can't be us, essentially. You know what I mean? The worst mistake we can make is try to spend our time being them. But like you're saying, Glockner, we've gotten these opportunities because of our specific effort, and we hold real estate down in the communities that we serve. We're serving people that we're friends with and family with, and that's something particularly unique that we can continue to lean into, right?
Exactly, and I've not seen that change very much from Andy's father, Ebby, down to Tim, Mike, and Joe who are running the company now. That same core value is there. Hey,
Sure.
let's take care of our customers. We want to be in business another 100 years.
Right.
So we're going to support our community and our customers.
Well, let's touch on that where you've been a part of multiple generations of the Glockners at this point, where Eb was involved with the business when you came on. Your dealings with Andy and his office is still just down the hall from you. And then what Tim, Mike, and Joe have done to continue to expand their multi-generational family vision. I guess, what have you seen them do that has made them be successful and perpetuate this from generation to generation? I mean, it's a pretty uncommon thing.
It surely is. I think most businesses fail in, third generation, something like that. But I think it's been so different with the Glockners. They really believed in the local community. They really liked what they were doing. If you don't like what you're doing, if you're just peeling the money out of it. But I feel they just had a general calling to this business, the car business. Not really much has changed. I mean, of course, Tim, Mike, and Joe have a different personality than like an Andy. Andy did real well. He built on what Ebby had started, took some of Ebby's companies and made them better. The boys have done the same thing. They've taken what Andy had started and added to that. I'm very proud of them. They didn't stop. They could have just taken what was handed to them and been just fine probably, but they wanted to grow and get more, and when the opportunities came up, they didn't hesitate. They said, well, all right, we'll just buy that other dealership.
Right.
So very proud of them. They've done really well.
And Clay Johnson, were you involved with him when he was here?
A little bit.
Yeah. Okay. But when there's on his previous episode of the podcast where he's just telling some stories of legal dealings with Heb, it is wild that like you have this this small town local business and people in it that are so ambitious, that are still such incredible entrepreneurs. You know what I mean? And so in hearing those stories about how you have this legacy business, and the service drive keeps us busy, the sales floor is busy, what you do is busy, but we still make time to push and progress and try something new. And that's a particularly interesting combo, especially for a place like this.
Right. Well, can you imagine all the just experience down through the years that they've all handed down?
Right.
You know, it's just amazing to me when I look back to see the numbers that we're doing now today. It's just mind blowing here in Soda County, Ohio.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
No doubt. Ralph, like what have been some of the more memorable days of your career? So your customer gave you a boat. That's a good one.
That was a good day.
But anything else that conversations you've had with other department heads or with the Glockners or customers, like what sticks fresh in your mind?
Well, the whole group of key managers are really good to work with. I mean, we all look at how can we make it better, and to communicate with each other. And if I have a thought or an ideal of something I want to try, I will bump that off a couple of these other guys that maybe have already tried this before I go into it. And it's a pretty tight-knit group. So as far as things that's happened over the years, have just been a bunch. I can't nail down one specific thing.
Sure.
I guess the day that Jim Donnelly talked me into taking over the insurance agency, that I still remember that day well.
Yeah, how'd that conversation go?
Well, we'll have to get the main conversation from Jim, but he came to him and he said, I've got this thought that, we really need to take our insurance agency and make it do something, because it had been sitting almost dormant from the 70s up until 2000.
It was kind of just like a plug into everything else.
Exactly. It really wasn't doing a whole lot of business. And he says, I think we can make something of this, and I'd like for you to run it. I'm like, man, I don't know anything about insurance. He said, well,
You were still a service writer at the time?
I was actually had left Glockner's for 3 years, and
Oh,
I
wow.
was working for my family business.
Oh,
My family has a manufacturing business. So, but I wanted to get out of that. But I found it real quick. I needed to be in retail.
Yeah.
So, anyway, Jim talked me into coming back, and it was a really good move on my part. But Jim had all the faith, and Andy, in the world. I had never been in insurance, and they said, "You're the man. Let's go for it." And the rest is history. So that was a big leap for them.
Of course.
To take a guy off the street, more or less, and say, "Here's this insurance agency. They had just purchased a smaller agency, and we want you to learn the business, and we want you to run it."
Yeah, that's an incredible amount of confidence to instill in you, and I think that's why people like us benefit, Ralph. Is that with Jim and I had a huge conversation about this when he joined us for the podcast, which is essentially like the Glockners are really good at giving you a chance to be you, right?
They are. They say, "Hey, we're going to provide the rooftop, all the back support. We're going to provide the capital. We need your brain power. We need you to work and make this happen." And they just kind of get out of the way. So you're running your own business inside of their business. This is the way I've always looked at it.
Yeah, of course. And I think that maybe that's just the key to success, collaborating with one another in an economic environment like this in the first place. Is just really allowing room at the table for other opinions, and I think that open-mindedness is what leads to this progression. And
Right. Yes. Let the manager do what he needs to do. Hold him accountable, which they do. With monthly meetings and your numbers.
right,
or
those matter. Those matter.
Yeah, that's your report card every month, and they do matter, and they will hold you accountable. But as long as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, it's a wonderful family to be working for. And when it doesn't go well, they're there to put their arm around you and say, "All right, what do we need to do to make this work?" Because I've been in this situation several times.
And the way you phrase that is completely on par with, like, one of my favorite things about Tim is I don't think he's ever told me no on anything. What he does is, like, he asks me a question, like exactly like this: "What do we need to do?" He won't give you an answer to anything. It's like he asks you the question, then you have to walk through and find the answer for yourself.
Exactly. And I think we all learn more that way.
100%. Yeah, it's like Socratic dialogue. You know what I mean? It's a lot more of a like thinking exercise than just telling you yes or no. And that's a powerful thing.
It's a lot like his father, Andy. Same way. Well, what do we need to do?
They have a way of doing that, of like letting you know what they think and kind of guiding you in the right direction, or making you realize, like, oh man, just by the way you asked that, this is underdeveloped. Like, I didn't even think about that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly.
And I think that's just part of the entrepreneurial spirit that's here for sure. Formative mentors. Now we're talking about like the Glockners, like as a plural thing, but maybe people here or specific interactions that you've had that's like taught you the most and helped you progress.
Well, of course, our parents. I had great parents, so that was a big influence on me. In the business, of course, Andy and Abby. Outside the business, John Gowdy, Temple Baptist Church.
Right.
Yeah, guys like that, just top quality people. I've been lucky. I've had just a ton of good mentors. Jim Donnelly, for one. Jim and I spent a lot of time together early in my career at the insurance agency, and he was always open door and always ready to help me try to find the answer. Because it was a struggle at first. You don't start any business and not have a struggle. But that are the main ones in my life. But my parents mainly.
Right, of course, yeah. And maybe that's not coincidental to just like the family dynamic that they have here. It's interesting when your business partners are also your family members or your spouse, and they often are. And I think that's been a key to their success as well. As like, I know Tim admired Ebb way before he admired the business. You know what I mean? It was about making him proud and being someone that he wanted to be, and that those ethics, those deeper values, other than like understanding the difference between gross and net profit, you know, is what drove. Is probably the deeper driving thing that's making this happen here. You know.
Sure. And I can also remember when I first started, I was green.
Mm-hmm.
At a vocational, they teach you the basic.
Right.
I mean, you know how an engine basically works. We had a core group of mechanics. I don't think any of them are left. I know they're not.
Mm-hmm.
Just thinking back. But they were so gracious in teaching me the business. You know, this is how you do this. And I look back, they were wonderful. And we had a service manager, Bill Davis, which you know Bill.
Uh-huh.
And he was very supportive. And he got me the training I needed to move on. So there was just a bunch of help to get started. And I think it's still here today. I still see it today.
Yeah.
It's still here. All you have to do is reach out and say, hey, man, I'm lost here. Can you help me?
Right.
There's
right.
people that will help you.
Yeah, and I think it's like the culture that we want to have here, and that we do is like all of us influencing each other. You know, either at the department head meeting or just in our individual departments. Like, you know, Nick Dingle, for instance, was the person that like pushed me to publish the first episode of the podcast. Like it was solely him and just the conversations I had with him back and forth. You know what I mean? And I have him to thank for what's come out of it. You know what I mean? So I think we're all continually pushing each other and have like a little bit of a competitive spirit with one another, you know, and all of that.
It is, and we have to do that as employees. I mean, the Glockners can't run this business by themselves.
No, yeah.
They need our help, and we need to support them, and we need to work together to make it work.
Right. Yeah, it's like, and that's a good point, Ralph. Like we're, I think, more a part of the story than I think some people and some of our employees realize, because people come to Glockner, but they don't expect a Glockner to greet them at the door. It's like we're kind of an extension of this vision that we're all sharing together and very much become like family, you know?
Yeah, very well put. And it's hard for some employees to grasp that.
Yeah.
But most do, I think.
Yeah, and it really is an invitation to be a part of something bigger than yourself, whoever you're working with. Like, I think a failing mentality and something that being here has changed me into is like, I think when I started, I was like pursuing my dream. I was trying to make my reality come true, you know, and instead I was asking the wrong question. It was like the question I needed to be asked is how can I help others help their dreams come true, like serve others kind of thing. You know what I mean? Because you have no market value if you're worried about yourself. Seriously, you know? It
is. That was always Andy. How can we serve these folks?
Yeah. Solve an actual problem. You know?
Exactly. I think it's written on our steps out there.
Yeah, it sure is, man. Well, Ralph, yeah, I got one. I'll start. You ready?
Okay, you start.
So we like myself, Mike Glockner, and Jim Dunley visited the counseling center. They have that HAWK, like Health and Wellness Center, for people currently in treatment. And so because TCC is like one of our community partners, and we sponsor a few things with them, and we're looking to like actually help employ some of their techs, like some of the people that have, I think it's ASE certification. Am I saying that right? ASE. Yep, ASE certifications that are looking for employment. So we're trying to be kind of an upline for them, and identify when we can help. But so we go and visit these guys that are like fresh out of the program, and Jim's with us, and Mike's talking about service. And then it's Jim's turn to say whatever's on Jim's mind. So that's, you always know, like, well, you're curious of
what's going to come out.
But he said a few things that I thought were pretty profound about just the company culture and the way we do things here. First thing he said was that we're a for-profit venture, and he wants to make that very clear, and that basically, although that's true, we haven't lasted this long, 170 years, by punching our customers in the face every time there's a chance for profit, right? So, clarifying just that service really is at the heart of it. But then he clarified, and his closing statement was, but just so you all know, we have winners on the team, and we give you every resource we possibly can for you to be a winner. But just to clarify, breaking even is for losers. You have to make money. And we want you to make money.
I've heard that same speech a few times.
That one, I think I'm going to have to get a breaking even is for losers shirt for Jim. I think that's one of my departing garments that has to happen.
I will chip in on that one. But breaking even isn't okay, so I totally agree with him. Stories, there's 20 or 30 coming to my mind here. In the business, I was there when Andy was young.
Mm-hmm.
And people probably don't realize that one time Andy had a temper.
Mm.
And
I've heard rumor of this.
Yeah. And he has overcome that. But he would get upset every now and then. It took a lot to upset him.
Mm.
But when he did finally break, it was funny. But I can remember one instance in our showroom. He always backed his managers, no matter what. If a customer was giving us a hard time, he would try to mediate, but he never threw us under the bus. He always had our side, unless we were wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Then he would scold us. But anyway, I can remember one instant. A guy had a Volkswagen. I can't remember what was wrong with it, but this guy was roughing us up pretty bad in service. And I had turned my back to go out. And all of a sudden, these guys start running by me. Well, Andy and this customer were rolling around on the showroom. Had actually gotten into a rumble over a Volkswagen that we was having trouble fixing. And that's one of the memories I have of Andy in his suit out there rolling around rumbling with the customer. That didn't happen, but a couple of times in the career. But you knew he always had your back, and he would never back down. If he thought he was right, he would never back down.
I can picture Andy in that suit with the hair and the mustache and everything, man. Yeah, throwing down.
It might have been the plaid suit too. I wish we still had that. We would frame it.
I think the most memorable thing that Andy's ever told me was on his episode of the podcast, he was talking about how when he started working in Glockner, when basically his dad called him and was like, "Son, I need your help. I need your help running. I need you to run Andy. What became Andy's truck and what was it? Truck and Andy's Car and Truck Center, right?" Andy's Car and Truck Center. There's still a plaque in the delivery bay that says that shows the business DBA one. But the most memorable thing he told me is the first year or two of the business, he came home and quit every day. Like every day he told Barb that he quit, I can believe that. Which is, a lot of growing pains inheriting something this big, especially when you're, oh man, I can't imagine. Like he was, 24, 25, you think, when he started? There's a ton of pressure. Ton of pressure. He was
27 or 28 when I came on.
Mm.
And still, the car business wasn't a whole lot of fun back in those days, especially in a foreign, an import dealership that hadn't really taken off yet.
Right.
So, yeah, it was a real learning experience getting through that. But Andy handled it well, obviously. It's still out there, and it's been one of our biggest winners.
Yeah. Other than that, I guess one of the most formative things for me while I've been here has been just hearing about the Glockner story straight through Eb Glockner. But, Eb's been gone for quite a while now. So it is kind of a unique, I just remember seeing that like 4 hours of footage that Ebb had recorded of himself telling the story and telling his thoughts on the family lineage and everything, and just thinking like, who does that? Like, you know what I mean? Who takes the time to inform the next generation and do so in a way that, like, you know, me coming in, never even having the chance to meeting or knowing of him, that I would be able to do my job better and serve others better through his efforts. You know, that's pretty uncommon. So, it always sticks with me.
Ed was never afraid of a microphone and to tell his story, for sure. He was an interesting chap.
Yeah, but I think it does speak to, like, you know, that was one of the goals of this, is to maybe perpetuate that spirit of, like, entrepreneurship and excellence in the city, you know, in the same way he did that for me. Like, how can we, through our stories and what we're telling, how can we put on the next generation, like give someone else the next step up, you know? What does Ralph Cartee abide by every day, or what have you found to be winning principles?
Well, sharing. I've always been taught to share your knowledge and, you know, share your wealth. That's one of the things that I think that I was instilled by Andy Glockner in me. You know, if somebody needs help, help them if they're helping themselves.
Right.
And once you gain somebody, like a customer, for instance, once you do what you say you're going to do, and you under-promise and over-deliver, it will, you know, those values, they will see that in you and continue to come back to you. That's one thing for my young agents that come in the insurance agency. I try to every single day say, man, don't overpromise and underdeliver what you're going to do for somebody, because they'll call you out on it. And once you lose that trust with the customer, it's hard to gain it back.
Right.
So, you know, be honest in your dealings and do what you can. But if you make a mistake, own it and fall on your sword, and it'll just all be better for you.
Right. Just to add to that sentiment, Billy Deaver on his time on the pod was, I think his saying is, bite off more than you can chew, but chew like hell. That's what he said. I like that. I liked that approach. You know what I mean? But
it and sometimes you have to just chew faster, because you do take on projects that maybe sometimes are over your head.
Right.
But you don't want to let your staff or the company down, and you just have to keep digging. I've had that happen several times when I've taken on something I didn't particularly know a whole lot about, and I had to do a lot of training in order to be able to write a risk,
right.
for instance, like a huge manufacturing project. But, you know, we got in there, we dug, and we figured out how to do it.
Right, right. And I think that's the spirit that we approach things with and need to approach things with, is like sometimes you can't avoid the, like, oh, I've made a mistake, I'm in too deep, but you know what I mean, this is not what I anticipated, but then you just have to deliver on what you said, you know. And I think that's what differentiates what we've been doing, you know.
Yeah, don't give up. Just keep on pushing forward, but be honest and all the way.
Well, last question here, Ralph. Maybe for someone new that's coming into business, you mentioned a new insurance rep, but just Glockner Enterprises in general, if you have a day one employee and you're tasked to kind of sit them down and tell them how they can be successful here in this community, what would you say?
Well, I've done this a few times with new folks coming in, different divisions, and I just say, look at my story. You just keep plowing, educate yourself, work hard, show up every day, you know, treat your customer like you want to be treated, and run a business inside their business is my best advice I can give you. Run it like it's yours. They'll stand behind you, and there's a lot of opportunity within Glockner's. I know there's a lot of opportunity out there everywhere, but where can you go that you're not just punching a clock and doing the same thing every day? You're coming in, it's no different than me owning my insurance agency down on the corner. They're not micromanaging me. I know what I need to get done. I know the numbers of my goals I need to get to.
Mm-hmm.
You try to find a way to get it done. And so, running your business inside of their business is my best advice.
Mm. Well, Ralph, I'll just say for everybody, man, we're thankful you're here. You're an awesome teammate, and just
Thank you.
I wouldn't lie about this. I have literally, and I've heard plenty of people say bad things about plenty of people, but I have never heard anyone say a single bad thing about Ralph Cartee, man. So your reputation precedes you, and you're a quiet man of action. We appreciate everything you do here and being a part of this.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Time for